So we're going to continue on our journey this Sunday. We're continuing on our journey for the month. And so I said to you all that really this whole year was going to be very new and different, even for myself. This year, we're going to be talking about this idea of decolonizing the spirit. We're going to be talking about the ways in which that we are so deeply programmed, that we have so many chains around our mind and our heart that we don't even see straight, that we can't even think straight, and that we don't even know it oftentimes. We're going to be talking about the ways in which the dream that we have been given, the things that we have been taught, and even the things that we think we believe oftentimes come from something that is not even ours, and it never should be. We're going to be talking about the way in which we need to start really calling the question on our lives, calling the question on all that we live around and in the world, questioning what really is true and what really does it mean to be God's people. What does it really mean to be of the Spirit? What does it really mean when we say that we are about love and light? Questioning how we move forward in life so that we open up a space that is not about lack and limitation. It's not about accumulation and hoarding. It's not about all of these things. It's about how we open to give, not just receive. How we open to share, not just take. And so we're moving this month. I said we were going to be talking this month about making the choice for change. And I really thought after talking last week that I want to stay on this topic of curiosity. And so it is about change. It is about choosing. It is about making those changes in our lives. But I want to focus on this idea of radical curiosity. What does that mean? That means, how do we become curious? How do we become curious again, almost like we were when we were children? How do we become curious again, even in the face of things that seem irrational or illogical or impossible? That's what it means to be in radical curiosity, like, this makes no friggin' sense, right? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure, but I'm going to stay in this, wow, what could be? What might be if I hold this spiritual presence, if I stand firm in my faith, if I trust what is coming through my gut, what might be? Radical curiosity. We're actively, consciously, and choosing that. Last week, we talked about choosing curiosity and not fear, and the ways in which oftentimes we're pre-programmed to be fearful of being curious. That when things happen in life that challenge our stories that we ascribe to, then we become shut down, or we become angry, or we become resentful, or we become hurt, or worse, we lash out. And so how do we stay in this spirit of curiosity, in this openness, so that we are able to lay the groundwork for a more fulfilling life, so that we can lay the groundwork for more fulfilling relationships, so that we can lay the groundwork to truly be in our truth and feel good about our lives, no matter what is happening around us or in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about this idea of daring to ask the question. Oftentimes, we talked a little bit about this last week, we don't stay in that curiosity. We don't ask the question because we're often fearful of the answer. If you really stop to think about what stops you oftentimes, it's you're fearful of the answer. You're fearful that if you ask the question, you may actually get an answer that is challenging what your life is right now. And then what do you do with that? We don't ask because we're afraid, But we must begin to dare to ask if we are to change our lives. We are here. Everybody has come here because they need a blessing. Everyone has come here because there is something in their life that it called them here, that called them to this message. I was called to unity for the first time 2 decades ago almost because I needed to hear this truth. I needed to understand the truth principles, and I needed to embody them in my life so that I could change my life. So everyone is here with that. I don't care who you are, I know at some level. But part of that is being okay with being uncomfortable. We have gotten to a place in our society where that is a no-no. Has anyone realized that? That we cannot stomach being uncomfortable. And that is not the way for us to be Holy Spirit in motion. That is not a way for us to understand Spirit and be Spirit and connect with Spirit. It is all about being in the question and being okay with being uncomfortable, because it is in that comfortable moment. It is in that time of uncertainty. It is in that time where you're brought to your knees that Spirit comes in and blesses you in a way that you would never have imagined. But you have to dare. You have to dare to ask and be ready. For me, Black History Month is such an amazing opportunity for us to be in this theme. It is an opportunity to be in a portal, an energetic portal where we ask the question, why? When I was a little girl, I was raised in the south side of Chicago. Many of you know my story. But I was raised in an all African American community. And so part of being in that experience was celebrating Black history every month. And I remember being in a community and seeing nothing in my everyday living, nothing on television, nothing in my family that had me understand that I was a child of God. There was nothing in my existence that said that I was worthy. There was nothing in my existence that told me that I could do better. But that was that portal in school. That time when I was with my African American teachers who showed me and modeled Black excellence. My teacher, Miss Dorothy Jackson, my 3rd grade teacher, who said, "You all will perform Shakespeare. I don't care that you're in 3rd grade. I don't care that you don't know who Shakespeare is, but you will perform Shakespeare." Can you imagine? I'm 9 years old with my entire class doing Shakespearean plays, full Shakespearean plays, at the age of 9. That was her vision, her daring to ask the question of what could we do? How could we do it if she just gave us the time and the opportunity and the love? For me, it allowed me to dream, to think, to know, to learn about all this history so that I could start to say, what about my life? What more is there for me? If this happened and people could persevere and resist and challenge and change and still love, what hope is there for me? So there is an opportunity here for us. There is a sacred portal that we have been given if we only give ourselves the opportunity to use it. So we're daring to ask. Let's think about one example. Have any of you all seen the movie Hidden Figures? Such a wonderful example. One of a plethora of examples. 3 women, the story is about 3 women, right? Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson. They were part of a team which they called the computers, or the human computers. They were part of a team that created and supported all of what was later to become NASA. but they were part of the West Area Computing of the National Committee of Aeronautics, and that was a segregated section of pre-NASA. And so they worked there, but their contributions were immeasurable. They were part of being pivotal in the creation of the space program for the United States. They were part of creating complex equations and understanding of science and aeronautics to be able to create safe journeys for noted astronauts like Neil Armstrong, Alan Shepard, and John Glenn. They were part of sending the first astronaut from the US, John Glenn, into orbit. Dorothy Vaughan was a mathematician, and she was the first African-American manager at NASA, or what was later to become NASA. Mary Jackson, she was the first Black female aeronautical engineer. And you all know she had to actually go to court to actually be able to go to training to become an engineer, because at that time, legally, she could not even enter that training. She had to literally go to court to be given permission. And Katherine Johnson, a published scientist, an amazing mathematician that did complex equations with just her mind. She was known as the girl by John Glenn, who would always say, "Get the girl." He needed her to come, and he didn't trust the computers. He didn't trust the computers. He wanted her to do those complex mathematical equations by hand so that he could then trust what was happening. His life was literally in her hands. Curiosity, asking the question, was part of that dreaming bigger, asking, what can I dare to do differently? What can I dare to do more? I see the circumstances, I see the segregation, I see all that's happening, but what can I dare to do? What can I dare to ask? How can I dare to be? Living in that question, to be living in the question so that no matter what, you are staying in purpose and on purpose. We talked last week about Jesus as our master teacher. Jesus was all about that question, the questioning space, asking the questions instead of rushing to judgment, asking the questions to decenter and stabilize us, to be able to access some different part of ourselves, so that our souls, so that we could be able to engage. That is what Jesus' mission was, to raise the question. He raised the question in the various ways in which he told the stories, the parables, all his statements, all the questioning, all the stories we see in the Bible. But more than that, he is raising the question. If we look deeply and truthfully at what is biblically there, he's raising the question on injustice. He is raising the question on unequal systems. He is raising the question on structures. He is raising the question on mental models. He is raising the question on colonialization. And he is raising the question about love. Where is love here? He is raising the question. And so if we say that we are Christians, if we say that we are New Thought people that believe in love, if we say that we are that, then we must raise the question about love. Today, not tomorrow. And we must raise the question in a way where we can communicate with each other lovingly and openly, and in a way that is not toxic and that is reproducing those colonial systems that I'm talking about, reproducing the way in which we ask the question or we interact with people that ultimately becomes violent. I know that's hard for y'all to understand. It was for me. Many of you may get it. Others may not. Take what you can right now. But let it rest, be in that question. How is it that we live our lives oftentimes that are replicating the systems of violence that we say that we are against? In the way that we even talk to each other. See, the colonial system wants to speak to you and have you speak to others in a way that will create shame and blame and distrust and disgust and inequality. And so when we have interactions with each other, start to ask yourself, what place are you asking the question about life, about your relationship? I'm going to go really granular right now. The Science of Mind magazine, which I love, yes, I'm Unity, but I read other things too, y'all. You know, I can hold the Unity flag and hold other flags too. That's part of our journey. Their magazine this month is actually all about curiosity, which I find really amazing. And the work this month is by a Science of Mind minister, Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson. And I love what he says about thinking about how we communicate with each other. He says this: all communication serves a purpose, as does all exploration. The explorations of colonizers, for example, were avenues to amass greater wealth, status, and privilege for themselves while plundering and enslaving whole nations of people, stealing their lands and their lives. Sometimes our seeking information and inquiring about another is actually doing the same thing. Our invitation is to ask ourselves whether the information we seek is life-affirming or life-denying. Let me repeat that. Is it life-affirming or life-denying? What is it that I want to create by way of this information? Will this help or hurt someone? If we are honest with ourselves, then we know what is ours to do. And if we are courageous and convicted to principle, we will do it. Of course, we want to get to know others, to build relationships, and to foster the bonds of friendships based on the sharing of information. But knowing our reasons, our intentions for a certain line of inquiry is what separates healthy curiosity from just being nosy. He adds a little joke at the end, right? What he's saying is, how are we asking things in our life? How are we asking the question? Has anyone heard of this idea of nonviolent communication? We have a group that's here that meets on Tuesdays, I think at 12 noon. And they're all about exploring every week how to communicate in a way that is nonviolent. What does that mean? Communicating in a way that is nonviolent is about deep listening. It's about understanding and trying to connect with the deep needs of yourself and others. It's about deep compassion, and it's about deep heart opening. The founder of NVC, which it's called, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, says when your internal dialogue is centered in a language of life, you will be able to focus your attention on the actions you could take to manifest a situation that meets your needs along with those of others. Life-affirming, life-denying. And so non-communication consists of two things: to express yourself and to listen honestly. So how would you practice it, for example? Give me a quick crash course. We're about practical Christianity here. Quick crash course. Let's say you're out to dinner with your partner, and they are doing this all night. Anybody been there? I see a couple hands. Yes. I know a lot of y'all have been there. So someone's, doing something, right? You're at dinner and you're excited, you're finally having time together, and they're just always doing this. Have you noticed and gone to dinner and seen restaurants lately? If you haven't, take a look around. Most of the couples, most of the families are doing this. I digress. Check it out though. You're at dinner. The idea is that you will look at 4 parts of this nonviolent communication: observations, feelings, needs, and requests. So you're noticing this, right? So in observing, without any judgment, you observe what others are doing or not doing that you like or you don't like. So you're observing this, right? So instead of being like, you're on your phone, get off your phone, I can't believe it. We said we were going to go out to dinner, and here I am. And anybody been there where you're starting to get upset? and you lash out and you're angry and you're doing that. So staying in the inquiry, staying in the question might look like, you know what, sweetie, thanks for taking the time to be here with me. It's really amazing that we have the opportunity, that we have the substance called money to be able to even go out here. I noticed that, you've been on the phone at dinner, and, I'm wondering why you're doing this. Like, what need is it that you're fulfilling here? What's going on with you that you are in this phone? And then you have to really be in your feelings, which we have a really hard time about. Most of us don't have any clue what our feelings really are. We've never been taught to really understand what our feelings are, much less to speak what they are. So your feelings, instead of saying, again, being angry, you did this, you did that, you should be doing this, you don't trust me, you don't listen to me, you don't want to be with me, all that other stuff. Say how you feel as you observe the actions happening. I hear what you're saying about the phone and why you're doing it, but I just want to let you know how it makes me feel. It makes me feel small. It makes me feel unimportant. It makes me feel like I'm unloved. It makes me feel like you really don't want to be here with me. Are we seeing the subtle changes? Then needs. You state the important needs that are connected to those feelings. So because I'm feeling this way, because I'm feeling unseen and unheard, my need is I need to feel like I'm heard and seen. I need to feel like I'm connected to you. I need to feel like our time matters. You connect to what is really your need here? What are you needing to feel good about this interaction? And then lastly, you make the request. You make a specific request that might help attend to those needs. So, I need to be seen and heard. I need to feel connected. So do you think you could maybe take the next 10 minutes and finish up, or 5 minutes? Or I'm going to go to the bathroom. You could finish up. And when I come back, could we just be here together? I would really appreciate that. Or whatever it is. Y'all following me? It's a very different type of communication that we're used to. Most of us communicate in a way we're defending, we're attacking. Yes or no? Don't leave me hanging here, y'all, like I'm the only one that's doing all this, right? Like I'm just the only one. Yes. Right here, the couple says, yes, thank you, somebody honest. When we do this, we're switching the lens, we're shifting from the shame and blame language into a deeply honest and vulnerable process. So here's what I want. We're going to close up. But here's what I want us to understand about communication, what I'm saying, that we are speaking oftentimes in a colonized mindset where we're attacking, where we want to dominate. Whether we realize it or not, it becomes life-denying, where we are taking away someone's dignity. We are taking away, by virtue of the conversation, someone's ability to access their own understanding of their feelings. We are believing that we are right, not that anyone else is right in the situation. We're creating a dichotomy that is us-them. We are creating an other. Your partner in that situation becomes your enemy and your other. Do y'all hear me? So staying in the question is about asking yourselves, how is this language showing up in your life? How are these instances showing up in your life that are cutting off your lifeline to spirit? These are not little tiny aggressions, though they are, but they add up. It becomes a cumulative situation that in your life, then you don't feel and you are not in spirit in the way that you want and need to be. So as we move forward out of here today, I challenge you to be curious, to jump into that Black History celebration portal about celebrating the need to be curious, celebrating something different, something new, celebrating the stories of power, celebrating the ways in which we dare to ask so that we move into the light, so that we become light bearers more and more. Stories of resilience and strength that give us hope and guidance. Daring to ask, why? Why this? Why here? Why now? And I'm going to leave this with you all. I'm daring to ask a lot of uncomfortable questions. And I'm hoping and praying that you all will give me the love and the space and the grace to ask him. Because I ask myself, and I ask of the world, why is it that a man, a biological man, can put on makeup and a dress and heels and go tell a story at a library, and that is so horrible? Why is it that someone can do that, telling just a story in a children's library that becomes so unearthing to life? Why? Why is it that we cannot talk about history to children? Why is it that we cannot have a conversation about being uncomfortable, about the realities of the past, and not be shackled to it, not be held to it, but just to know that it existed and to know, guess what? We can do better, and we are. Why? Why are we focused on these things? Why are we not focused on the preachers and the pastors and the priests who are really some of the people that we need to be looking at? Why are we not questioning the power structures and those people that exist in those power structures, the real pedophiles in plain sight? Why? Does this offend your sensibilities? I hope it does. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.